Welcome to today's inspiring episode of the Expansion of Consciousness, where we explore the profound intersections of spirituality, creativity, and environmental advocacy with Teza Lord. Teza is an author, she's a public speaker, and she's a spiritual activist, and she infuses her life with a passion, commitment to spreading love and positive energy. With a diverse background ranging from jewelry making to botanical illustrations and even her workings on Steven Spielberg's Jaws. Taylor's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. She's a staunch advocate for viewing the protection of our natural world as modern spirituality, and it utilizes various platforms from her books to her spiritual podcast, Z Lord, to inspire and uplift others. Today, Teza will share her insights on harnessing inner power, facing life's challenges with love, and vitality role of the environment consciousness in personal and global healing. Join us as we dive deep into the sacred, crazy, and everything and Teza's Lord. And it's going to be a great show. And we were talking a minute ago about some of the marvelous books she's written. And guys, wait till you see the artwork on some of these books. But we're gonna send you to the website and then we'll look at all those things. But I'm gonna go ahead and bring Tessa on right now. Hi there, and I want to make sure so that I won't mess your name up this entire show.
We went through a few versions there, but that's good. Hi,
I
Jason,
know.
and welcome everybody. Also,
Absolutely, this is a great honor. We connected on a platform, and I got a chance to start to read about you and read about the some of the things that you've been able to do. And the more and more I got excited, and one day I accidentally deleted our meeting time,
I
and
thought
you're
it was
like,
a
oh
mistake.
no.
Yeah, we're all so busy, you know. The life has got to be just more calm, and I knew that was an error
It
when
was.
all of a
It
sudden
was.
you
It
canceled
was on
my
my
show.
exactly. But you were on my main calendar, and I'm like, no. But I'm glad that
Yeah,
we had a chance to
yeah.
really get here. And you have written some amazing things, and you do a lot now with inner power and
Hmm.
consciousness. Give us a tour of what led you to some of the things that you're doing today.
Well, I've always been curious, very curious since childhood. And to me, I mean, I love the title of your podcast, Expansion of Consciousness. I mean, if somebody asked me, what do you want to do with your life? I would say, I want to expand my consciousness right up what I've always wanted. And that doesn't mean in one category. You know, you can expand your consciousness as a kid playing sports. You can expand your consciousness as a homemaker baking cookies, or as a CEO, you know, or just a streetwalker. You can expand your consciousness anywhere. And I somehow just came into this life remembering a lot, whether
Mm.
it's past life or cellular or the DNA being connected to the stardust. I don't know. You know, it's so many people have so many different theories. All I know is that I felt this bigness that I was not afraid to pursue. And thank God I didn't listen to my parents because my parents were not of this type, you know, coming after World War II. I was born right after World War II, and everybody work, you know, and
Yeah.
being involved with consciousness, whether it was with art or yoga at a very early age, you know, it's just something that my folks did not promote. They said, you know, that's something you might do after the whole week is done and you've paid your bills. And then maybe if you have a few minutes left over, you can do something like that. But that was the only thing that really excited me to go into consciousness. And I remember I was just a middle schooler, so seventh grade, when I had a very enlightened teacher who introduced the book called The Prophet by
Mm.
Khalil Gibran. And that was my first introduction to, whoa, you mean there's something beyond like what the church says, what the government says, what the parents say. You know, it was really outside the box. The prophet. Are you familiar with it, Jason?
I'm not, but I'm all ears.
Oh yeah, Khalil Gibran was both a poet and a mystic, a Sufi mystic, and also an artist, and very much in the ilk of William Blake. William Blake, who in the, I think it was the 18th century, early 17th century, late 17th, early 18th, he was really the first of the combination artist and author, writer, like that I follow. I mean, it's really those are my mentors, William Blake and Khalil Gibran. And it's because I'm a writer and an author and an artist. To express consciousness in different medium was what really excited me. So when I heard the word nirvana, which was not heaven, it was not hell, it was not these things that you either get rewarded or punished for after you live either a good or a bad life, but nirvana. I went on a search for nirvana as a young girl. I said, well, maybe I can find it in the woods. So I'd go by myself and look at trees and under mushrooms and sitting by brooks and rocks. Where is nirvana? Why can't I find this place, nirvana, that even in the prophet it talks about? And so it took me many years through meditation to finally find nirvana is inside of us. The biggest thrill, the most expanded way we can be humans is when we tap into that inner consciousness that we have. So
It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, it just started early for me, and I was quite obsessed, and I became an artist against my parents' wishes. I actually studied law at first. You know, it comes in handy to be able to speak well as an artist and to be whole-brained. But I've always been a professional artist and doing a lot of different jobs to support my addiction to creativity.
Wow. Wow. You know, and Teza, you are known as many things, author, public speaker, but one of the things that I'm very interested in is your spiritual nature. And you know, you're compassionate about spreading love and positive energy to all. I want to understand, what can any person do to invite more joy into their life?
Yes, it's a choice thing.
Mm.
Everybody must realize that we have free will, we have choice. And when a person feels like, oh, I have no choice, I have to drink because my life is so tough. I have to eat that donut because I just need a reward. You know,
Yes, I know.
I know I just came off of a cookie binge. So that was my choice. You know, I'm paying the price for it now. But it's all a choice. And one of my first books was called In the Eye, and I explored the true story of how I took these techniques of choosing to girls who are in lockup, juvenile delinquents, ages 12 to 18. And for a young girl who's been wild and crazy and never had any nurturing at home, finds herself in lockup for, X amount of months or years because of previous infractions against the law. They don't throw you in lockup right off the bat unless it's really something heinous like attempted murder or murder. For a young person to realize that they have the choice for even accepting that something so awful as being in prison could be okay. It's like my choice. They finally learned that, you mean if I'm not just being mad and resisting it and just waiting to get out so I can continue the party, you mean for me to accept that this is happening right here, even though it's prison? Yes, that changes everything. So the very first thing is choice. And the second thing is choosing the light. So the second thing I taught the girls was to breathe. Now, most people don't know how to breathe. So they can't connect with the light within because they don't even know how to really take a deep breath. And that's one of the first things that a good yoga teacher should teach, a good mindfulness teacher, even people who are getting ready to have babies, childbirth, they teach breath, singing, and if you're blowing a trombone or a saxophone, you have to learn how to breathe. And if you're not in tune with your breath, then you're pretty unconscious. You
Mhm.
haven't begun the exploration yet.
Yeah, and the breath is so important to a lot of things that we do to reach whatever level of comfort or whatever level of peace from what's ailing us. The breath is really important. It's a great ingredient. I mean, it's really empowering to hear how simple intentional actions can significantly enhance
Mhm.
our daily joy and
Yeah,
our overall satisfaction.
the breath anchors us. It's like our anchor in the here and now.
Hmm.
And in that magic moment of the now, I call it, it's because it's magic. When you tune into that one moment right here, forget about the past. Don't worry about the future. Just focus on that breath. And that is that sweet spot where consciousness resides.
Hmm. And consciousness is all around us. It's not something that we think we wake up with every day. And oh yeah, my brain is gonna allow me to work these problems out. Our consciousness is not local. Our consciousness is beamed in from a higher place. It is universal. It is something that's shared. So I guess that whole concept of understanding is real difficult. But I want to dive into some of the other things that I was reading as I went through, um, a number of things that you talked about. What do you think? Why do you think so many of us have forgotten that we are a part of the animal kingdom? And I know that when I'm working in quantum healing hypnosis and I'm doing past life regression therapy, sometimes my clients or depict themselves as energy, water, the atmosphere of a planet, and even animals. But why have so many of us forgotten that we are part of the animal kingdom? And how does that disconnection affect our lives?
Yeah, so that's the subject of my previous to this newest book called Hybrid Vigor. Hybrid Vigor is all about my personal learning from animal experiences.
Mhm.
And my very first statement when I start the book is most of us have forgotten that we are animals. And so I think personally, being involved in the spiritual world, I do a lot of different interactions with a lot of different paths. It's been called amnesia. I mean, we humans have this trait of being born with amnesia. I don't know why people decided to call it that, but it's when you start awakening to consciousness, whether it's through recognizing that yes, you are in the animal kingdom, you're a mammal, and you're very closely related to this and that, and you have a lot of the same DNA as a tree or a rock or a drop of water. We share so much, all the creatures here on Earth. And so when we start waking up to our connectedness, whether it's through our animalness or our consciousness or our DNA-ness or our, being on Earth, we are Earthlings. That's the beginning of expanding our consciousness. And it
Mhm.
really does begin with just being open to remembering. So when we start thinking, oh, yeah, we are mammal. Okay, we stand upright. We don't have the four-legged thing going on. And so we pay the consequences for that too. Childbirth is not easy for the human woman. Many women used to lose their lives up until just recently with modern medicine. It's very difficult to give birth. I myself have not given birth. I helped raise my husband's very young children. And I'm kind of glad I didn't because I don't think I'd have the courage to go through it. It's a lot of pain, and the animals that are on four legs don't have that. You look at a dog or a cow or any animal that has four legs, and it just like the childbirth is just just easy, slips right out. So when we embrace our animalness, we are practicing humility. We're not just these big, smart Homo sapiens, which are really pretty dumb. Homo sapiens means smart, but my theory is the more we tune into our animalness and learn from the wild animals better characteristics like courage and protectiveness and discrimination, then we become more evolved than Homo sapiens. We're evolving into what I call Homo spiritus, but we have to be humble. And that doesn't mean to be humiliated. To be humble means to be human, that we accept the fact that we are so blessed to be born as humans
Yeah.
because we have the ability to reach this consciousness.
Yes. Beautiful. And just to piggyback on what you said, the amnesia comes from the incarnation process. We've lived so many past lives. And, just from the research of the late great Dolores Cannon, when we are incarnated from the spiritual side to this physical world, our memories are wiped. It's impossible to operate in this particular lifetime and learn this particular lesson with knowledge of all the past lives that you've ever lived, which are in the hundreds of thousands for these unique old spirits, this energy that's within our body. So yeah, that amnesia conversation you were having is absolutely correct. But reconnecting with our inner nature, it truly seems key to understanding ourselves and our place in the world. So I totally resonate with what you're saying. But can you expand on how protecting the nature world is an expression of modern spirituality?
It's our absolute core of spirituality to be mindful of the needs of the earth. The earth's environment is very stressed out. Everybody knows. I'm not going to, preach to the choir. Everybody knows the statistics. There have been people who've been trying to deny it, but I started off working with our earth scientists in the 70s. I was a botanical illustrator at Harvard, working with ethnobotanists who studied plant medicines. And early on, I heard about the knowledge that the scientists had that our atmosphere was being corrupted. The ozone layer had already been damaged. So here it is, like 50 some years later, and people are just waking up. But it's not too late. The doomsday people who say, oh no, just get ready to be annihilated, that's very fatalistic. I mean, when you have free choice, you can change anything. If
Yeah.
I had terminal cancer, if I was given a diagnosis today, I would not just roll over and say, okay, I'm ready to die. I would really look at my life as we do the earth. Like, I'm just using the analogy of my own health instead of Mother Earth's. I would look at my own health and say, okay, well, I could, cut out the cookie binge that I just mentioned. I could cut out the negative thinking, which sets up this vibration of, heaviness in our cells.
Mhm.
I could also uplift my thinking, which vibrates our cells like crystals, because we are made out of water mostly, and that's liquid crystals. And the way we think is the way we really are. So if I was going to do that with my own health, just imagine if everyone had that connection with Mother Earth, saying that, oh, yes, I see that your atmosphere is suffering. The water is pretty bad. Et cetera, et cetera. People's use, overuse, everything has to be new instead of recycled. There's a lot we can do. And to be proactive is very much a part of modern spiritual life, not to sit in a cave and to meditate on the belly button that they did centuries ago. Now, that was fine for the evolution of humanity at that time. But the days of meditating for hours on end, staring at our belly button in a cave, that is not true spirituality.
Mm.
Today, we must be active and we must promote love to be the equal antidote of all the craziness. You mentioned earlier, there is a lot of craziness going on. We all know it. People are flipping out. People are filled with high anxiety and fears. Well, that's their choice. They could also say, I could take that energy of being frightened and look at the reverse, which is love. There's either fear or love. And it's up to each one of us to decide what state we want to promote in our own private lives. We have to start with our own private life. And then it expands out to our circle. And then eventually, yes, the Mother Earth, this beautiful planet that we are entrusted with, will receive our blessings from the way we treat ourselves and it.
Yeah, the frequency of love is powerful, infused in the heart space, allows you to achieve a number of different things. So I totally agree with you. But let's keep it on the same topic of spirituality and this environment that we're in, this modern day environment. Could you share the inspiration behind your book, your eco novel, and how it reflects your views on modern spirituality and environmentalism?
Sure. So, The Bridge Tender is the name of my eco book. I have a copy right here. I loved the cover. It came to me in
Yeah,
a dream. This
love
is
it.
the exact cover that I saw in my dream. It's so wonderful to be able to have the ability to interpret what comes as signals and everything that we have in our dreams. So this book, like all my books, are like analogies of what's happening in the bigger picture.
Mhm.
And previous books were nonfiction, so I actually used my own experiences. This one is a foray into the imagination. It's totally a novel. It is based upon real events, real historical things, and it shows a woman, just one protagonist, who is exemplifying what happens when we just have no restraint. We have excess. We have thrill seeking. We have pleasure seeking. We have everything. And that's the modern way. How many likes? How, are you an influencer? Like, who cares about that? But a lot of people do. So the protagonist is a kind of a party girl and not at all awakened yet. But she had a message when she was a child. She had an experience of a voice saying to her, you won't believe what's going to happen to you in your life. You just watch. And that voice told her what was to come. And she had a hard time accepting that inner voice, that inner message. So she went against it, like a lot of people do. They just can't accept their true calling in life because they don't feel worthy, really. They haven't yet learned to love themselves. So Thea, the protagonist, of course, she crashes and burns and she makes the choice. It's either die or awaken. So fortunately, it's halfway through the book, so you're not prolonging the misery. But it's very much like society. We can't just jump right into like working with the unseen energy until we see that many people reject it. Many people do whatever they can to stomp on it and just not work with these energies. So when it happens to Thea and she starts having these connections with energetic presences, it takes her a while. Her dog recognizes it before Thea does. The dog, like, because dogs are much more intuitive and working with their instincts because unlike we, more highly evolved, quote unquote, mammals, we're not really working with our instincts as much as other animals do. That's why they can feel the earthquakes coming, they can feel a seizure coming.
Yeah, more
They
connected
Yeah, they connect on a deeper level with the
with the earth.
perceptions.
Mhm.
And so the second half of the book is the protagonist working with these unseen energies, and that's where the magic starts, and that's where the juice starts flowing. And she totally becomes like a steward of the earth with a worldwide community that does consciousness raising, not going out to the street to picket, nothing about educational stuff, but using consciousness to connect and uplifting energetically the whole mass of humanity.
Hmm. It's fascinating to see how how your personal experiences and your spiritual journey have influenced your storytelling. It's just absolutely awesome. Just integrating such
Yes.
profound themes into your narratives, but it must resonate deeply with your readers who are probably also passionate about these issues as well.
Well, the book became number one metaphysical fiction when it was released on Amazon. That shows you that's my audience, metaphysical. And it doesn't necessarily have to be fiction, but just like the Bible uses parables and Christ taught in parables. And Paramahansa Yogananda teaches, and Ramakrishna, and all the great teachers, Buddha taught in parables. I'm not calling myself a teacher, I'm a storyteller. But people relate to stories much more than how to, number one, number two, like diagrammic type of teaching. But the back and forth of storytelling means that the person who is being told the story to can participate. They can imagine themselves in the story rather than just being told, well, this is what you need to do.
Right. And you do have nonfiction work out there. So I was reading in your nonfiction works, you often discuss the concept of everything's sacred. So how do you convey this message through your writing, and what do you hope your readers will take away from it?
Well, it's just like when people say how awful the state of the world is. Like, to me, it's for a purpose. It's like if we just look at our own lives as a microcosm of the world, because we
Mhm.
are microcosms of the world, just like the way our cells talk to each other. If we have a scrape on our toe, we're thinking about it in our brain. All the cells are connected. Nothing happens that headquarters is not aware of.
Right.
So in the world too, we are all connected. And like I said earlier, you're either in the fear mode or you're in the love mode. And I believe God, for lack of a better word, I don't like that word so much as the sacred or the divine, God being good, orderly direction, not of any religion. It's love, pure love.
Mhm.
And when you start experiencing it with understanding rather than knowledge. Now, knowledge may mean, oh, she says God is love. Well, that's knowledge. But if you really start experiencing it by learning to meditate, for instance, turning off the thought process and going into that divine essence, the spark of consciousness within us, then you have understanding. Big difference. Big difference between knowledge and understanding.
Yeah. Powerful message when you emphasize that sacredness of life. It's very, very powerful. But it typically resonates with your audience, and I know that you're trying to awaken this recognition for your readers. And this,
That's yeah, it's not about being rich or famous, believe me. It's about knowing that ever since a child, I've had this urge to the curious urge to experience the heights.
Mhm.
And once I did experience the heights, which is within, that's the nirvana that we talked about, I just feel it's very selfish to just keep it to yourself. I mean, once I have achieved some kind of inner peace, I want to spread it, especially to people who are experiencing the opposite. There's so many people who are buying into the fear, buying into the news, buying into the dread, buying into the negative.
Yeah, that seems to be the goal of a lot of us, metaphysical writers, trying to help the reader with a deeper connection to the world around them. So I definitely get it. What about the challenges you faced while writing about topics like recovery from addiction and transforming negative bonds? And how did you overcome them to maintain your authenticity in your narrative?
Well, you have to experience things, right? You can't anybody who hasn't had personal experiences, it's very hard to put yourself in the shoes of, like, for instance, when I went to teach the girls who were in lockup, I always started off by saying, even though I was in my 50s at that point and they're like teenagers, I said, "You guys and me, we're exactly alike. The only difference is you got caught earlier." And they all went, "Say what?" I mean, like right away, I'm not on this pedestal. I'm
Say
not like this
what?
fancy white lady who comes in with yoga, but
Right.
I'm one of them. And yes, I spent time in prison. Yes, I was a bad girl. Yes, I had addictions. Yes, I committed crimes. Yes, I did all that stuff that you guys did. And how can I teach them how to make other choices if I didn't? So people who go to work with the imprisoned, or even people who are being released, how can they relate unless they're one of them? So I am one of them. I'm
Mhm.
40 years in recovery. I'm 40 years really dedicated to the consciousness path, whereas before I was kind of playing around with it. I was like, it's just another modality. Like so many people today, oh, you're going to Pilates or yoga, or you're going to Tai Chi, and different modality every day. But when you find something that really resonates with you and you dive into it, you will strike oil if you just keep diving deeper and deeper. It doesn't matter what path you choose, but just stick with it.
Awesome. Just authentic writing about personal and I know Teza, often painful experiences. I mean, it just requires, in my view, a lot of courage and resilience. But it's inspiring to these young ladies, to your readers, especially for those who might see their own struggles reflected in your words.
Well, anybody who offers creative energy to the world
Hmm.
as an artist or a writer or a dancer or a musician, or anybody who brings their creative babies to the world, it's I use the picture of, it's like I'm inviting people to look at my underwear drawer. Sometimes it's not pleasant, sometimes it's really, really personal. And like Maya Angelou, who said, she's a big mentor of mine, she said, "You don't have to tell everything, but you tell the truth." So,
I
you
love
don't have to tell every little gory detail, how you got to a place, but you want to convey the truth. And the truth is, how can you really experience the light without having experienced the darkness? You have to. You
and you
can't be
talk
afraid
about
of it.
laughter. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tessa. Go ahead.
Yeah, the darkness, like whether it's addiction or bad relationships or bad career choice, or in my case, I left America. Like I'm one of these people who, during the Vietnam days, everybody's saying, love it or leave it. Well, I left because I was getting pretty mad, just like the young people are right now
Hmm.
about Gaza. I thought, this terrible country, blah, 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 blah. So I left and I spent a decade sailing and living in the islands of the West Indies. And I had inter-island shipping business. I had a restaurant. I was always doing art. And after the end of that 10 years, I came back to America and I said, wow, I love America. Whereas
Hmm.
before, I did not love America because I judged it and I didn't know what else was out there in the world. And I did end up in prison, in a dictatorship, and I know what it's like to live in a true dictatorship. Everybody can say whatever they want about who is doing what in the presidency, but this is not a dictatorship. This is democracy.
Mm. You speak about humor, in laughter. Can you discuss the role of humor in your books, especially considering your viewpoint that laughter is the best and most potent medicine?
Yeah, if anybody has ever met a truly, I would say, enlightened, I want to use that word, not elevated, but enlightened person, as I have, I've been blessed with great teachers. They are the most joyful, most filled with divine laughter people. Like even the Dalai Lama, for instance. I've watched a lot of videos of the Dalai Lama and never met him personally, but he is so joyful. And once he was
High
given,
vibration.
Excuse me?
He has a high vibration.
Yeah, he totally is. So
Yes.
once somebody was delivering some bad news to him, like, the communists were doing this and that, and, it's a very hard situation that he's dealing with. And yes, you could see his face, and he had, sadness, and he absorbed it and he processed it. And then within like the next 30 seconds, he was back. He allows the ripple of the emotion of the negative. We're not going to just say that it's great for people to be killed and great for countries to be taken over, smaller countries like China took over Tibet. But the Dalai Lama is so into his higher chakras. He's so committed to bringing that consciousness of meditation that he has experienced all throughout his life into every day, that he knows that it's his choice, and he chooses the love. The love is healing, fear is contracted. The love is forgiving, and fear is vengeful. He knows all of that. So he doesn't even have to think about it. He's just automatically in the gear of love and laughter and forgiveness. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean that you condone it. It means that you accept. You accept, and you're not going to fight it.
Right.
So that's a big difference.
That is awesome. And you have this huge artistic background. How did that influence the visual and descriptive elements in your writing?
Well, my early days as an artist, besides being a jewelry maker, and I studied at the museum school in Boston, I was privileged to be involved with plant studies of what they're called the sacred divination plants of the indigenous world,
Mhm.
and ayahuasca and peyote and
Yeah.
psilocybin mushrooms and all sorts of other auxiliary plants that are taken along with these as shamanic visual connections to the divine. That was my early experience as an artist. And when you're working intimately with these plants, they speak to you. They become part of your cellular makeup, because I would sleep with them, I would study them intensely, and I knew these families so well that once somebody gave me an extinct specimen that had been pickled at an herbarium. That's how the botanists study plants. They collect them and they either pickle them or press them. And I was drawing their family members. And so this botanist said, well, here's an extinct one. We would like to see if you can draw its portrait, which is what a botanical illustrator is. I'm a portrait um, artist of plants. And, it was easy for me because the pickled fruits and leaves and stems that I had were so similar to all the cousins that I had been drawing previously, that I could create a beautiful rendition of what this plant had looked like in nature when it was alive, but it had become extinct.
Mm, mm. And when I think about it, some of the most beautiful techniques that you're using in your using visualization, using the love within you to create, but it's marred by our current era here, marked by just division, the divisiveness. Why do you believe that environmentalism supersedes political and cultural divides?
I think there's even a purpose for the divisiveness. Like
Mm,
it's bringing everything to a head.
yes.
It's bringing everything to a person has to decide if they're going to go for the love and have a life that is worth living and even fun and happy, or they can decide, no, I'm going to be angry and go with the fear and create more divisiveness. And those people, they're going to have a hard time. They're going to have a real hard time, because meanwhile, the people who have embraced the love consciousness, we are multiplying in numbers terrifically every day. Because, of course, if you give somebody a sample of happiness through your own choices, not because of what's happening in society, but at how you deal with it, how you can see that it is serving a purpose, or you choose to be angry and bitter and create more antagonism, even with your words. People don't realize how strong words are. Yeah, so
Very strong.
very strong. It's a yogic shakti. The shakti means divine energy, and matrika shakti is the words that come out of our mouth. It's a very powerful tool. So when people realize that they do have a choice, most people will say, "Whoa, I didn't know I had a choice about that," because they're not awakened yet. And once you awaken to the fact that it all begins with choice, like we said earlier, then they'll say, "Well, of course, I would like to have some inner peace, even though the world is crazy, even though there are wars going on. Even people who are in war can choose to have inner peace. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean that they accept that the war is going on."
Reminds me of a book that I wrote about being incarcerated, while incarcerated, not when you're free, but while you're incarcerated, about this inner peace, about how to achieve that, when you're isolated. So that just reminds me about that. But Teza, what are practical steps individuals can take to heal our world?
Well, the first thing is to think positively.
Yeah.
I'm a big social media person. I do positive posts. I never join in on a discussion when it gets anywhere near controversy, because there's always going to be people who are going to feel the opposite. So I keep everything really in the category of love. So in this day and age, people have the choice. I mean, if anyone's in a state of fear right now, and I know there are some people who are listening, because there's always people around who are in the state of fear. And that state of fear feels bad. I mean, you feel small, you
Mhm.
feel powerless, you feel, I don't have any hope. That's a terrible way to feel. And that is a mind game. That's totally your mind playing tricks on you. And if a person can realize that, can come to the conclusion that, that's that monkey mind working on me, saying I have no power. But that's a lie. That monkey is lying to you. So the thing is first of all, everybody has the monkey mind. Some people who've talked to me about, "Oh God, I'm cursed. I'm the only one I know." No, every single human being has this busy mind. That's just part of our animalness. The creator gave us this mind that we are invited to participate with as co-creators. We don't have to think of even God being outside of us. God is within us, and God is our consciousness. So once we make that decision, then everything just flows. Once you have embraced love and just seen even something that could be heartbreaking, like let's say a young child has been diagnosed with cancer, which happens. So who's to say that that's not the very last thing that that soul needed, who had been incarnated, as you say, many times, and it needed one more lesson for it to be released
Mm.
forever, to be free. And so that child should not be pitied. That child should almost be treated like an angel, because that child who has just been diagnosed, I've actually met children like this, and they have died, and the lessons that they bring us, who are privileged enough to know them, either as the parents or the caretakers or friends, we know that they're bringing us the message that all is well. And
Mm.
then that child is fulfilling its purpose, its sole purpose, not to grow up and be an ice skater or a football player, but to be a child and to die to its physical, so it can bring lessons to everybody else about letting go. Like, this is a serious thing here, this life. We better pay attention. And so I think that every child who has a diagnosis like that is an angel who's bringing us an opportunity, and also their own soul needed that experience to be freed.
The opportunity to learn is in every incarnation that we participate in, on every life, in every dimension, on every plane. How do we start the process of healing ourselves? I mean, you suggest that this is the first step to healing the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if we you stick with that analogy of like being given a diagnosis, like let's say, um, I won't use myself, but just a person I actually know who has been battling serious stage 4 cancer and recently been given a not a good report. So instead of saying, "Oh, I need to look at my life a little more in detail to see what it is that the universe wants me to adjust, to change, because something's obviously amiss." This person went out and got drunk and said, "Well, I've got problems. The only time I can stop thinking about that I'm dying is when I'm drunk." And that person knows that alcohol is sugar and that cancer cells love sugar. And that person was actually participating in his probably upcoming death instead of saying, "Wow, I've been given another opportunity to change." And yes, he had been drinking up until getting the last prognosis, the bad news that the tumor was not receding, it was growing. That so some people are just in denial that they can make changes, that they can look at their life and assess it, or they just don't want to know. Ignorance is bliss. And the more awareness we have, the more opportunity we have of uplifting ourselves, even if we have, um, a disease that we have to deal with.
Yes. I think that also, just to add to what you're saying, when you're trying to heal yourself, the first step is self-realizing, self-recognition of the problem, and setting your intentions that this problem will be something that I will allow a practitioner like yourself, me, and many others out there to heal. And self-realization is a big part, understanding where the problem is, whether it be mentally or physically. So I totally agree. But let's now talk about you.
Mhm.
Let's talk about some of the wonderful things that you have going on right now. The books that you've written on the website, the services that you provide others. Give the audience a good understanding of what you offer.
Well, the books and the art, they're all on my website, tezalord.com. I call it my mothership.
Is
Come
that
on
T? Spell
aboard.
it, spell it out for them.
Yeah. And I am also a podcaster with a spiritual bent. Been doing that with my husband and myself because we travel a lot. So we will podcast when we're on the road and we camp a lot. And so we're podcasting along the fire that we are alongside of and cooking our meals and simple things. And we always use our personal examples because it's storytelling. We don't just tell people what to do. We use our own personal examples. And right now I'm pretty excited because I am in the middle of developing a course, an online course, which will
Awesome.
bring together all the concepts that I work with about becoming more attuned to our oneness. For instance, I would say oneness is intrinsic to my belief system, that we are one. That was my very first book, my manifesto, total art book. And when we really feel that we are interconnected, like this beautiful painting behind me, this is an interconnectedness of humans. They're all in
Mhm.
their golden kind of spirit body.
I love it.
Yeah, and we're connected just like the way the recently we've discovered that all the trees in the forest are connected underground with the mitochondrion, just particles of root systems that just interconnects us all. And the Native Americans were actually the first ones who voiced this in a way that we could understand. The invading people from Europe, Chief Joseph said this. He said, what you do to one of us, you do to all, because we are all a web of life."
Mm.
And once we realize that, it's true. It's just like if you hurt your finger, you're going to feel it in your body throughout. because we are all in the body of this blended family of humankind. So it's our responsibility to really spread the love. That's our moral and spiritual responsibility in this day and age.
Awesome. So that course you're working on right now should be out pretty soon. So I want you guys to make sure
Yeah,
that
I'm just at the beginning stages. I have to, do a lot of techie work. I have a support system that can help me and have to put it together. It'll be ready within next couple of months. So if people want to sign up for my email list, I'll keep them informed about it. But it's going to be a step by step, using examples and visuals and encouragement from me. And it's actually using one of my books that we've already discussed, the one where I am talking to the girls in prison. It's called In the Eye. And In the Eye is a perfect example of how to go from the state of fear, absolute frozen fear, angry fear, revengeful fear, through the various stages of letting go and transforming until finally you arrive at the port of compassion.
give the audience your website once more.
Teza, Teza, Lord, that's one of the best names there are, LORD.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Teza, thank you for coming on the expansion of consciousness to share your message of love, consciousness, and just the inner power that we all possess within, bundled into your beautiful books, your art, and the courses that you offer. And I just want to personally say, I am glad we had a chance to sit down and have this conversation. And I hope that you accept my invite to come back at some point in the near future.
I sure will, Jason. As soon as that course becomes available, I'll get in touch with you.
And yeah, we can come back on and let's kind of spend some time talking about it. And that'd be awesome.
Sounds good. It's going to be
Okay,
great.
hold on. I'm going to move you to the back. I'm gonna wrap this up. I want to say a few more words to you.
Okay.
Stay there 1 second. Wow, that's an incredible conversation with Teza Lord. But as we conclude today's session in our discussions with Teza, we are reminded of the transformative power of love. We talked about that very extensively. The importance of environmental stewardship. And that's another topic that was very deep. And the connections between our personal and planetary health. If today's conversation inspired you, consider exploring more of Teza's work, engaging with her teachings, and perhaps joining her in advocating for more spirituality and environmentally conscious world that we live in. But remember, each of us has the power to bring about significant change, both within ourselves and in the world around us. Join us the next time as we continue to explore powerful ideas and strategies that expand our consciousness and enhance our capabilities. Until then, keep nurturing your inner power, spreading love, and embracing the sacred in the everyday. Thank you for joining us on the expansion of consciousness. And remember these 3 words: trust, relax, and discover. Thank you so much. Good night.